Good afternoon. I'm Israeli government spokesman Avi Hyman. Today is March 18th, 2024, day 164 of the October 7th war. 164 days on, our war aims remain the same. Destroy Hamas, bring home the hostages, ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to us, ever again. First, we start with an update on IDF casualties from this war. IDF fatalities since the start of the October 7th massacre have unfortunately risen to 593. That's up 3 since last week. The people of Israel grieve with the families of Staff Sergeant Matan Vinogradov, aged only 20 years, who fell this morning. Matan was from Jerusalem and was killed in battle in the north of the Gaza Strip. Command Sergeant Major Uri Moyal, aged 51, from Dimona in southern Israel. Uri was stabbed multiple times in a terrorist attack in the Beit Kama junction. Uri heroically saved the lives of many when he managed to shoot his assailant dead before collapsing himself. Uri was a married father of 3 children. Captain Daniel Peretz was only 22 years old. On Thursday, I told the BBC about my friend Rabbi Doron Peretz, whose son Daniel was injured and taken to Gaza on October 7th. For 163 days, the family had no information about his fate. Last night, the IDF announced that he fell in battle on October 7th, and Hamas is holding his body in Gaza. The IDF and all Israelis share in the terrible grief of their families. We will continue to accompany them at this unbearable time. Our hearts go out to all the families of those soldiers killed in action, as well as those who were murdered, taken hostage, and wounded. May their memories be a blessing. Now for an update on Ramadan in Israel. Israel maintains the freedom of worship while taking care to protect public safety. This year and every year, the Ramadan prayer routine is being maintained. In the past few days, tens of thousands of worshippers entered the Temple Mount, and prayers are taking place in an orderly manner. Meanwhile, terrorist organizations are spreading incitement and fake news on social media in order to encourage violence and disrupt the Ramadan routine. Now for an operational update from our war to destroy Hamas in Gaza. Hamas continues to abuse hospitals as their terror strongholds, using the most vulnerable as human shields. In fact, every single hospital that we've searched has been used by Hamas as a weapon of war. This morning, the IDF conducted a precise operation to thwart terrorism in the Shifa hospital area. Footage shows terrorists firing from deep within the Shifa complex. Our forces engaged the terrorists. Tens of Hamas terrorists have been detained in the Shifa hospital. I can now confirm that Faik Mabuchoch, head of the Operations Directorate of Hamas's internal security, was killed. He coordinated Hamas terrorist activities in the Gaza Strip. He is no more. Elsewhere, a short while ago, a suspicious aerial target crossed into Israeli territory from the Red Sea and fell into an open area north of the city of Eilat. The target was monitored by IAF forces. No damage was caused and no injuries were reported. Now an update from the north of Israel. Overnight, IDF fighter jets struck a Hezbollah military structure and an observation post in the area of Ramyeh Yesterday, on Sunday, Hezbollah targets were struck in the area of Nakura. Next, I want to give you an important update from COGAT, which coordinates and facilitates humanitarian aid entering Gaza. Yesterday, 239 humanitarian aid trucks entered Gaza via the Kerem Shalom and Nitzana. 179 packages were airdropped over northern Gaza. We will continue expanding efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, the Prime Minister welcomed German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to Jerusalem. After the meeting, the Prime Minister said, "We will operate in Rafah. This is the only way to eliminate Hamas's murderous brigades, and this is the only way to use the military pressure necessary to free all of our hostages. We have approved the operational plans for action in Rafah, including advancing the steps to evacuate the civilian population from the combat zones. This is an essential stage ahead of the military action." Lastly, it appears that many in the international community are working hard to keep Hamas in power and keep UNRWA relevant. Let me reiterate the Israeli position. UNRWA is a front for Hamas. UNRWA employees actively participated in the October 7th massacre. UNRWA employees took and held Israeli civilian hostages. The UNRWA HQ served as a literal cover for a Hamas server farm and intelligence base. UNRWA is not the solution. UNRWA is part of the problem. That brings us to the end of today's briefing. I will now take your questions in the chat. Please do let us know your name and outlet. Thank you.
Thank you. First question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Does the Israeli government believe that the US Senate is holding military aid back until there are new elections in Israel?
Joel, thank you for your question. I won't make the mistake of wading into American politics. I will reiterate what the Prime Minister has said, which is that we are a sovereign nation. We are not a banana republic. We are fighting a war for our very existence. We are fighting for another day of the Jewish state. We're fighting for the future of our children. We will continue on our just war to defeat Hamas, to bring home the hostages, and to ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to Israel again.
Thank you. Question from Leo Soroka at the Washington Post. A senior Israeli official told the Israeli media that negotiations regarding the hostage deal will last at least 2 weeks and will take place in front of Sinwar and not in front of the mediators. Can you relate to these reports?
I think the answer was in the word reports. I can't speak to unnamed sources in the Israeli government or other governments. What I can say is that one of our main war aims, as stated again and again from the beginning of the war, is to free every last hostage. Now, we've seen there's a historical precedent as to how to achieve that, and that is military pressure. Military pressure coupled with diplomatic pressure. We will continue on both fronts. We will continue upping the military pressure on Hamas while working the various diplomatic channels to ensure that every last hostage is brought home. This is a crime against humanity, and they need to be with their families now.
Thank you. Question from Mark Weiss at Khan English Radio. Is there an estimate how long it will take to safely evacuate all the civilians from Rafah if and when we get to that stage?
No, but again, the Prime Minister has stated on many occasions that we're taking a two-pronged approach on Rafah. We need to get civilians out of harm's way, and then we need to go after the last 4 battalions of Hamas. We will do both of those things. We will do them at the time that is best in the most optimum and strategic way, and we will not broadcast that to the media before it happens.
Thank you. Question from Jim Williams, Azenga International News Service, Washington, D.C. Is it fair to say that despite this weekend's back and forth between the Prime Minister and Senate Majority Leader Schumer has not changed the support for Israel from the US, has not changed it, and it remains strong without any strings attached?
Well, the support from the United States has been clear from the beginning of the war. President Biden himself called Hamas pure evil. They have backed the war aims from day one to destroy Hamas, to bring home the hostages, and to ensure that Gaza does not become a threat to Israel. So those war aims have not changed. We will stick to our guns and continue on to destroy Hamas. It's unfortunate when others wade into politics which is not their own, dare I say. I'm not going to wade into American politics. Israel is a sovereign state, and I would ask others not to wade into Israeli politics. The point is clear. The vast majority of Israelis support Prime Minister Netanyahu's war aims. We have a unity government that came together because of the necessity of the times that we're living in. And from the most latest polls that we've seen, more than 82% of Americans support Israel, against Hamas in this war. So the people of Israel are with us, the people of America are with us, and we will do our utmost to steer clear from internal American political discussions.
Question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Can you confirm reports of slow deliveries of ammunition from the US?
I absolutely can't confirm any such reports. Again, the word reports. I would ask, potentially you could check that with the IDF, but I'm not familiar with those reports at all.
Thank you. That was the last question.
Thank you very much. Different time tomorrow, same place. Thank you very much. Stay safe.